Well, mid-size sedan wars are upon us, and in a preemptive strike, Honda has decided to spruce up its 5th gen City just in time to meet the upcoming Hyundai Verna head-on. To do that, it's spruced up the looks just a bit. There are a few key cosmetic changes, and it's dialed up the tech quotient by making the ADAS features a bit more advanced. Now, with safety, looks and fuel efficiency going for it, the big question is, can Honda reclaim the lead in the segment that it once had?
But the key changes come in the form of massively upgraded ADAS. In the hybrid's case, this means the addition of features like low-speed adaptive cruise control. This, at least theoretically, should allow the City EHEV to go through start-stop traffic without any braking or throttle input from the driver whatsoever. But before we get into that, a little warm-up is in order using the car's active lane assist technology.
Now, of course, the lane departure system really relies on markings on the road, which tend not to be as informative or sometimes there at all. So, I've got a straight ahead road. Now, this is only accessible after about 72 kilometers per hour. So, once I go into that range, I have to just nudge the steering and it brings it back in lane. Of course, road departure mitigation can be turned off by just simply toggling the controls over here. It's actually fairly accessible in case you don't like having a lot of control taken away from you. But honestly, within the city, it's a great feature to have. But it's an even more valuable feature to have on the highway, where you will be doing higher speeds and therefore, changing lanes. Let's say, should you be feeling a little drowsy or you're not fully attentive, well, until you get some rest or a cup of coffee, this should hold you in good stead. See that? Doing it entirely on its own.
But what really sets apart this City Hybrid from the one launched last year is the car's ability to drive through start-stop traffic entirely without too many inputs from the driver. The windshield-mounted ADAS camera essentially scans the surface for obstructions and slows the car down based on the speed of the vehicle ahead.
Alright, so we've reached what is fairly densely populated area, and I'm going to demonstrate just how well this low-speed system works. So, increasing the cruise control speed just by pressing this button, and now I put it at 70. Now, it doesn't really matter how much I increase it to, it'll only hit that speed once it senses that there's no obstruction ahead, and that is essentially what adaptive cruise control is all about. But in this case, I don't have to make any braking input. Remember, if I make a braking input right now, it cancels the cruise control. There's been no throttle or braking input from my side, right? It's doing this entirely on its own, and it can do that in start-stop traffic, provided you don't step on the brakes. Lane departure warning and system assist sort of keeps you in the right lane, and the adaptive low-speed cruise control allows you to go through start-stop traffic. Of course, here I'm applying my brake, but you can immediately lower. So I've put it down to a crawl, okay? All you have to do in start-stop traffic is just press this button and it'll take off at the original designated speed. So it has some way to go, but for a Honda City to have this feature is pretty impressive.
Still, the feature is only available in the EHEV, which Honda expects to account only for 15 to 20% of the City's overall sales. What then does the more commonly sold petrol manual have to offer? Once again, it has to do with ADAS. The Honda City is now the first car in this segment to offer adaptive cruise control minus the low speed follow function in a manual car. Why is this a novelty? Well, adaptive cruise control works better in an automatic, as it autonomously slows the car down without necessitating the need for operating the clutch when slowing down to a crawl. So, just how or how well does this function work in a manual car?
Now it's slowing it down. And if I reduce the distance between me and the car, then off it goes on its own. Now, it's coming to a halt entirely on its own. But now that we're coming close to, there you go. So it cancels the cruise control as soon as it gets to a stage where the engine is about to stall. This is actually quite impressive because I was all the way in third gear and there was no real sort of stalling. It kind of brought it down to a halt and allowed me to take control without really interrupting the flow of the drive. Of course, if you wait till a point where it has to cancel cruise control, then you have to reset it again. But if you intervene in time and you depress the clutch, bring it to a lower gear and to a halt, then it's still the same cruise control.
On the whole, the updates to the 5th gen City take an already good car and make it just a bit better. The powertrain remains unchanged, as do the power levels. The suspension geometry has been updated slightly, and there's finally a new, lower priced variant of the City.
Now, at the moment, the chief competitors are, of course, the Ciaz, which gets a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated motor, and mild hybrid Grand Vitara, but it is not the most exciting motor in the world. But Honda has managed to pip those cars with really clever ADAS technology, a new price point, a new base segment, and more power than the rest, 121 horsepower, so you got a little more going for it. Alright, so the changes here are also not too significant. In fact, it's more or less the same car that you saw last year, this being the top-end EHEV, the hybrid version. One thing that separates it from the standard 1.5 litre petrol, of course, is this 4 carbon fiber trim. In that you get this sort of 4 wooden trim. The wireless charging dock, according to them, has been improved. It's a little more effective now. In all other ways, it pretty much remains the same. In the standard car, you get it over here, so when you can either use the cup holder or the wireless charging tray, which is not entirely convenient. What they claim to have really done is improve the resolution, the 8-inch screen. Now, this isn't really like the best in business, but it's still functional enough to meet all your daily requirements. In fact, they've even added wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is pretty much necessary at this point, given, you know, the area and the kind of competition it will be trying to tackle. Other than that, the steering remains the same, the functionality remains the same. It's just a few features on the ADAS that it has managed to tweak up, but other than that, it really is pretty much the same Honda City, the same 5th gen. So other than that, there really isn't that much to go on. Fairly incremental in terms of...
These changes certainly don't make this a new car, but a few key cosmetic changes, a hyper-efficient hybrid option, and some very effective and impressive ADAS functions are certainly enough to keep the City in the running for the title of the best mid-size sedan in the country for a while.